registered for tonight and can't make it will still be able to go back and watch the recording of not just this event, but also all of the workshops that we're doing. And they'll also have access to the slide decks from all of the workshops and from tonight's event as well. All right, so with that, a little bit of background. The Be Your Own Boss Bowl is really the crown jewel of the 4 competitions that we offer throughout the year. And most of the competitions build upon one another. And the Be Your Own Boss Bowl is the most demanding, but also the most rewarding of all of the competitions. We offer lots of support towards it. And the funding and the service prizes that are available, if you make it as a finalist, really make it all worthwhile and pay off. To be eligible, you have to be part of the Temple University community, which means a student, alumni, faculty, or staff member of Temple University, and it can be from any of the 17 schools and colleges. So whether you're an undergrad or grad student, alumni, faculty, or staff, you can participate in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. Okay, eligibility, in addition to being part of the Temple community, the leader of the team has to be from Temple University. You can be a new business or it can be an existing business. You have to be less than 2 years old as of January 1st of this year, not raised more than $50,000 from external institutional sources, gross sales of less than $100,000. It has to be a for-profit business. For those of you who are on the fence and maybe working on your application for the Changemaker Challenge competition, that's a competition that is open to not-for-profit ventures. And the deadline for that competition is tonight at midnight. And then also, we really encourage cross-discipline teams to participate. So you might have a specialty in marketing, look for somebody to join your team who's got a finance background, maybe somebody on the technology side. You can have up to 4 members of a team, and all of your team members do not have to be from Temple University. So you can have members from other colleges, universities, people who've already graduated from the university. But again, I want to stress the leader of the team has to have a Temple University affiliation. All right, so we offer cash and in-kind service prizes of about $200,000 in value. You can see there will be 2 tracks, an undergraduate track and an upper track. And the upper track is for graduate students, alumni, faculty, and staff. And if you're on a team that has a mix of both undergrad and grad students, for example, that automatically bumps you up into that upper track. So something else to think about. But in each track, you'll see that there's a 1st through 4th prize. Everybody that makes it to the finals, that's all 8 finalists, will win some cash. And then one of the 2 first place winners have an opportunity to be the grand prize winner, which is an additional $40,000 in cash. In addition to the cash prizes, though, all of the finalists participate in our IEI Accelerator program called Startup Studio. We run that over the summer. There's also some really awesome in-kind service packages for legal, accounting, marketing, technology services that are available that will be awarded out. They're donated by our sponsors. And we actually have one of our featured sponsors with us here tonight that'll talk in just a few minutes. We'll also be offering our Crowd Favorite Award, sponsored by the IEI. And then there are 3 additional awards this year that we're offering that are new. There's a Digital Innovation Award, a Global Award, and also a DEI Award that are sponsored by the organizations in parentheses. There'll be more information coming out in the next few weeks about what those awards are, how you will apply to those, and what the prizes will be for each of those awards. All right. Submission requirements, it's pretty simple. We ask for you to submit 3 things as your application to the competition. The first is an executive summary of just 1 to 2 pages. Then we're asking for an investor style pitch deck. And then lastly, a 3-year financial projection, which is really just your P&L or an income statement and then the set of assumptions that go along with that to back that up. So how did you get to those numbers? And that's in the assumptions. Additionally, you can submit an optional 2-minute video if you'd like, something along the lines of a short elevator pitch, if you think that will help the judges better understand your concept or the value you're delivering. We will be providing important resources, so I encourage you to please register your intent to participate. You don't have to do this in order to enter, but if you don't register your intent to participate in the competition, you won't get access to this Google Shared Resources folder. In that folder, there will be templates that you can use for your submissions. There'll be examples of past submissions and tips, eligibility policies, so you can go back and make sure that you're eligible to compete, workshop video recordings and slides from all 6 workshops will be in there. The judges' scoring rubrics, so that you know exactly what the judges are looking for and how they'll be scoring it, and then other important information that'll help you through this process. Now, one thing I want to stress is please take advantage of the great mentoring support that we offer. There are over 75 mentors on our Startup Tree platform. You can use the QR code there to join and sign up on Startup Tree. When you are a member of Startup Tree, you can search through these mentors. You can look for the IEI tag. You can look for our e-strategists, which are really our top level mentors who are very embedded and very knowledgeable on the startup process. And then also look for and search for BYOBB open mentors and BYOBB matched mentors. They're people who've specifically volunteered to help teams for the competition. It's very easy to book a meeting. You can, in most cases, either click a button to request the mentor or click a button to actually book the meeting directly with the mentor. And you have the choice to meet with one mentor on an ongoing basis, or you can meet with multiple mentors. And lastly is when you go in, if you don't know where to begin, who do I pick of these 70 mentors? When you register your intent to submit to the competition, we ask a couple questions about mentoring, and you can indicate that you'd like help being matched to a mentor. And then if you check that off, we'll take the initiative and we'll look for mentors that we think would be a good match, and we'll introduce the 2 of you to kick off that process. So please take advantage of the mentoring help on the platform. Now, quick overview. We offer a series of workshops, 6 workshops in total, one every week, every Wednesday night from 5 to 6:30 on Zoom. This is the QR code so that you can register for all of those workshops. We'll be starting off with the overview, and the first workshop will be on crafting your investor style pitch deck. The next one on market opportunity and competitive landscape, and we'll be bringing in a special guest speaker for that who will help you understand the resources available to you through the Temple Business Library. Adam Shambaugh will be joining us. He is awesome at being able to help you figure out how to do your market research, how to get that market sizing that's very important when putting your presentation together. On the 9th, we'll be bringing in Sean Boyce, who is another special guest speaker, and he'll be talking on developing your business model and the important aspects of that. On the 16th, I'll be covering financial projections and assumptions. And then lastly, on the 23rd, we'll be doing kind of an open round robin, open topic workshop, pretty much anything that we've covered in the past or any new topics that you'd like to have addressed, and we'll cover them in that last workshop. Additional other key dates for you to be aware of. We have 2 special mentoring events, one which is peer mentoring with our student organization, the Entrepreneurial Student Association, and then also an expert mentoring night with a handful of those mentors from the Startup Tree platform who will be joining us to answer your last minute questions before you submit. Submissions due the 23rd. We'll have finalists announced on April 8th after the first round of judging takes place. There'll be a week of pitch coaching for those finalists. And then on April 21st, we invite all of you to come back, finalists and non-finalists, to join us for the actual pitch event and the awards ceremony. Now I'd like to turn it over for a couple minutes, and I want to introduce Philip Michael, who's the CEO and founder of NYCE. They are one of our sponsors, which is the Tech Mansion here at Temple. Philip, do you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Greg. So what's up, everybody? I'm really excited to see what you guys can do with this competition. I'm always a fan of seeing new entrepreneurs and people getting into entrepreneurship at a young age. I got started pretty late, so to speak. Actually, I could have done this much sooner than I have. And if I had the resources at my disposal back then and the belief that I could, I would have, and we would have been here 10 years ago. Now, in terms of what we do, NYCE is, if you're familiar with Robinhood or any of the investment apps, that's who we are, that's what we do, just for real estate, which is how we started out. Anybody can own a piece of real estate for $100, including a mini neighborhood we're building right around campus. And instead of just providing regular student housing, we've built these live-in accelerator homes, if you will, luxury living, obviously, but it's set up so that you can actually learn some of these tools, that you can work on these things. And of course, with Greg and the crew and all the resources that you have at your disposal with the university, but from us who are actually doing it on a day-to-day basis, if you look at what we've done, we started in April of 2020. We bought real estate for a couple of years beforehand, but the tech part we just decided to put it out there, let people invest, and we built an app. And before you know it, we've built a $263 million real estate portfolio, and we have 180,000 people network and community who's part of what it is that we do. So what the Tech Mansion is simply where people can live and learn the same things that we've applied that will ultimately help you, not just in the competition, but raising money. We have the Adidas family, you know, the Adidas brand, but the Adidas actual family put up $5 million for us to invest in the residents' startup businesses. So it's not just what you get here, what we're sponsoring. We have VC money coming in if you have a really good concept. Now, granted, just because you live there doesn't mean you get free money. Not how it works. You got to have, as Greg says, you got to have your ducks in a row. You got to have your projections. You got to have what it is that you're building and why, what's the problem that you're solving, what's the clear pathway to the dollars coming back. The big mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make, they make it way too overcomplicated. See what we do. You can own real estate for $100. We create the gateway drug to wealth, and we want to create the JP Morgan for the 99% versus for the 1%, so that all of you can get to own and eventually become millionaires by the end of 2030. That's what we do. And that's the environment we built within the Tech Mansion. And I don't know, Greg, did I give you the overview? I'm just trying to highlight and underscore the point that yes, we're here to judge, and with the skill set that we built, but also if people choose to live there, they'll get access to what it is that we do, workshops on how to raise money. For instance, we set 3 records for they call it equity crowdfunding. I call it more like a direct listing IPO, but you list something and people can invest in you. We set 3 records for getting to $1 million. And that's the same type of tools we want to give to the people that live there, like a live-in accelerator, just like you got the accelerator on campus, slightly off campus, we got the same thing. So you can, remember, when you build a tech startup, it's like being a pro athlete. It's not just a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7 lifestyle immersion type thing. So that's what we want to provide the resources for. So you can go out there, create some jobs, create some cool businesses, and be successful way faster than I allowed myself to be because I didn't have those resources. Make sense, Greg?
Yeah, no, and I just add, you know, what you said is about the immersive experience of living there and being surrounded by other entrepreneurs, people who are focused on their businesses, but also there's just tremendous resources available as a resident of the Tech Mansion. And also we're partnering together. So, you know, all of the people living there in the program there are part of our programs. And it's, you know, a good partnership. We're thrilled to have you, Philip, and your team, Nat and Irv, who's the resident at the Tech Mansion space now. So anyway, I'd encourage people to not just check out the space. You can book a tour, go down and take a look at it when everybody's back on campus again. Take a look at the app and you know, really check it out. Lots of value there.
One thing that I would like to highlight is Irv himself, who's the sort of the on-site manager super. And what he's done is while he's lived there, he's worked on his fitness subscription brand, which has since crossed $100,000 in sales. Just getting the opportunity to be there, take advantage of the facilities and work on it, setting one of the things that we did with Herb is like, look, you got to have, we're going to do sales calls. How's it going? How are you progressing? Just like how it would be if you have investors that are part of your board of directors, your advisory board. So that's really what it is. You have access to that if you live there. And just being in that environment, like I always like to say, is that you hang around 5 million years, you become the sixth. And you become the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. So you hang around people like that, there's a probability that you'll be successful, of course, if you put in the work and you stick with it. So yeah, that's really it for me. And if I can be available, Greg, and Julie out there as a resource, of course, I'm always ready, willing, and able to assist and serve where I can.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Phil, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your sponsorship of the BYOBB and all the support you've given to our entrepreneurs so far. We're looking forward to that continuing in the future. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. So I want to move into the main program, and we've got 3 very, very special people here with us tonight. This is really the reason why you're here tonight, is to listen from these people. The first is Enoch Bonzo. He's the founder of Kiese Technologies. Enoch is a graduate of Temple from the School of Engineering in 2011. And Enoch and his team won first place in the upper track, and they were the grand prize winners from last year. In addition, we have with us Nelly Tachev from Fox 20, and she was in the MBA program. So from a graduate perspective, she was also in the BYOBB last year and took second place in the upper track. And last but not least is Emily Madara. She's a current student at Fox, graduating this year. And Emily's going to pull double duty for us tonight, because not only is she going to be on the panel and adding her perspective, answering questions, but she's also going to be our moderator for this evening. So Emily is also the vice president of the ESA, the Entrepreneurial Student Organization at Fox. And we've asked her to moderate for us today. We're trying to feature our students from ESA and put them out front and show what they can do. So Emily, you're wearing 2 hats tonight. Emily was our second place undergraduate track winner with Sun and Stars Collective. And she was also in the Changemaker Challenge and won the crowd favorite last year in the Changemaker Challenge. So I'm looking forward to hearing the questions that you have lined up tonight for the panel, Emily. And how about if I turn it over to you now?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg, for those introductions. So to start off the questions, I would just like Nelly to start off talking about Simply Flows and how it started and what is it about now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nelly Tachev. I'm the founder and CEO of Simply Flows. How it started, I found myself at a place where I didn't want to be. I quit my job, and later on, I heard I was part of the Great Resignation, or how they recently call it, the Great Reevaluation. Anyways, I was looking back, I was reflecting on what had brought me the most and the biggest satisfaction. And I realized that no matter what my company was, what my role or job description was, my biggest satisfaction was to improve efficiency and productivity and to give people tools that can make their work easier and more enjoyable. And that's how I started Simply Flows. It started with bringing those tools to, especially to non-technical people, to automate their data processing. And since then, we've pivoted. So currently, Simply Flows is the first actually company to offer virtual assistants in the metaverse. That's the short answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Nelly. Enoch, could you talk about your company?
Yes. Hi, I'm Enoch Bonzo, the CEO of Kiese Technologies. So cool fact is my background of my picture, I'm actually sitting in the last building that I built before I exited the construction industry. So if you ever come in Vancouver, I can show you where it is. So I worked in the industry in construction for about 11 years. And in 2018, I was fortunate enough to go into a business development role for my company. I was actually relocated to Canada in Vancouver so I can help grow our business unit here. And although I worked for the largest general contractor in North America and was given access and tools such as Salesforce and SAP, I still found myself utilizing multiple Excel sheets and a lot of different ways to track my sales process. And at that point, I realized that there needed to be a different way to do for CRM to exist that would be effective for the construction industry, especially for people who work in the commercial space. So, and I also noticed that there was a disconnect between sales, pre-construction. I'm going to use some construction lingo. A lot of people might not know, but there's sales, pre-construction, and then the actual aspect of building a building, which a lot of you guys get to see, but there's a lot that happened before that. And there was a big disconnect, and which is causes a lot of issues when buildings get built. So with that, we created a system that actually connects all the pieces and allows the flow to go from pre-construction, sales, pre-construction, and actual construction. And that's where we are right now, trying to change how that process is done in the commercial space of construction.
Very interesting journey too. Awesome building. So I can talk about the Sun and Star Collective. It all started with me asking my co-founder, Caroline O'Keefe, if she wanted to enter the Changemaker Challenge, because I knew we were both interested in social impact. So we just said over winter break, let's search for an idea. So I was shopping with my mom. I noticed her stuffing 2 very large eyeglass cases into her purse and trying to find a new purse that would accommodate both of those. But it just seemed, it didn't seem realistic to always be able to do that. So I texted Caroline, I said, hey, what about a double eyeglass case that can save space and is made sustainably? And Caroline was able to create the design right out of her own head and as an eyeglass wearer herself, and it was perfect. So from there, we just really built the idea up to be a double eyeglass case that fits varying sizes of glasses. For right now, it's called the Duo Case, and it's been a really exciting journey, especially in college and being given access to all of these resources to start. So we're in the process of prototyping and manufacturing. So it's been an awesome journey. To kind of segue into that, how did I hear about the competitions was being a student and being in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I want to turn that around to Nellie and Enoch. Enoch, if you want to talk about your experience about how did you end up hearing about the Be Your Own Boss Bowl and what brought you to really enter?
Yeah, so sorry, you want to go first, Natalie?
Oh, that's fine. Go
Okay.
ahead, Enoch.
Yeah, so actually in 2000, when I was in school, a few friends of mine from the mechanical engineering program applied back in like 2010, and they were undergrads and they won some money, and I was really excited for them, and I thought that they were gonna do something with it, like build a company, and then it just ended up nothing happened. So I remember that from then, and I was always aware of this existing. And when I actually launched my company and I was looking for resources, just looking around, I actually circled back to Temple, and I found that this is actually the most generous of the resources you can get out there, right? A lot of resources, especially from universities, do not provide that much. And actually looking at the BYOBB and what was able to provide, I was able to make the easy decision to actually enter the competition. I thought about entering in 2020, but at that time, my idea, what I was working on was very early stage. I was still having conversation with people, so I decided to defer until we were a bit more progressed before actually entering the competition.
Well, it was the same idea?
The same idea, yeah. I just never entered it in 2020. I started working on a startup in 2020, like the idea part of it, right? And then actually putting wheels in motion later 2020, and then we entered the competition in 2021.
Awesome. That sounds like it was a good decision.
Yeah.
Nellie, can we hear from you?
Yeah, sure. I first saw it on a Fox newsletter and thought it would be cool to maybe someday go and just watch the finalists. not a single thought about participating at that time. So after I started my company, actually, that's when I decided to participate. And it was the fact that I had decided to participate made my whole idea a little bit more real, if you will. And then I almost missed the deadline. But while talking with a friend, another Fox alum, he actually reminded me of the competition. He was like, have you thought about, do you know about this? I'm like, how come I've kept it on my radar for almost 2 years and now I was about to miss the deadline, but I didn't, and the rest is history.
Awesome. So talking about the starting of your ideas, was there ever an aha moment when I kind of felt like for me, when I saw that issue, that's when I realized the problem? And I wanted to know if for either of you, there was any kind of like aha moment, like this is a problem that I need to solve and that I want to solve.
Yeah,
I can go now.
Nelly, you can go.
For me, it was, I was working at a nonprofit where dozens of people were manually moving data around all day long. Like literally, that's all they did. And I knew there was a better way. And I knew that this wasn't the best way to spend donation money. So it was super frustrating. And that's when I decided there must be a better way. You know, I can do something to help out, and actually I can do something to help out more than one team or one department at a time. So that was kind of the trigger for me, I guess. But again, I had always kind of worked, whether in a capacity of a software engineer or whether as a leader, I had always tried to improve efficiency and productivity. So that was kind of my thing.
That's awesome. How about you, Enoch?
Yeah, so for me, I was one of those people that Nellie's talking about that was moving data manually, and that really pissed me off because I was brought into Vancouver to grow this business unit from, you know, whatever revenue they were at, and we wanted to triple that in 3 years. So it's a crazy task, but you can't really do it when you spend most of your time just sitting in front of your computer doing manual data entry, right? So I knew that something needed to happen, and then I went out and said, okay, this already exists somewhere. Someone must have created something that would make my job easier, and I did the research. Only to find out that it didn't exist. So I started using multiple things. I started building my own Frankenstein system, which took more of my time. It worked, but it took my time. And then the aha moment really kicked in when I went out and said, okay, I can't be the only person this pissed off about this. So I started talking to other people that were doing the same exact role as myself in my company, as well as in different companies, and just asking them the question and finding out that they're experiencing the same thing, but they just resolved that, okay, this is what it is. It is what it is. I might as well just work more hours. And that's when I said it, you know, I have to fix this because there's no reason why you have to work extra hours just because of inefficiencies in software, right? When we can easily build something that can help people be more productive and allow them to be able to, you know, work less hours, right? And work or kind of transfer their better use of their time to something more significant.
Yeah, so you built that yourself. That's so awesome. So looping back to talking more about the IEI, I wanted to talk about what kind of help did you receive from the IEI in developing your idea? Personally, for me, it was definitely the mentors really helped me when I was trying to flesh out different ideas and what my pitch deck was going to look like, and honestly everything. Greg, Allen, and a ton of the other professors at the II really truly are helpful and are what make the II so special. So definitely using those resources and attending the Be Your Own Boss Bowl like workshop sessions. I kind of catered it to the ones that I knew I needed that maybe were topics that I didn't get as much exposure in like the classroom settings. So those were definitely really helpful for supplemental information. Nellie, do you want to talk about what resources you used?
Yeah, absolutely. Except for the badge of honor, of course, which is super important. Yeah, I cannot stress enough mentors, mentors, mentors. It's been so helpful. And actually, even though my mentor was only supposed to be meeting with me during the accelerator, actually, he suggested that we continued meeting. So it's not like a one-off meeting. It's not like getting a one piece of advice. You can extend that relationship and continue working with your mentors or reaching out to them whenever you have questions. The workshops which you, Emily, mentioned were super helpful, like practicing your pitch or thinking through who your first customer might be, getting all the feedback, of course. And the IEI provides super helpful tools. My personal favorite was the Lean Stack with its Lean Canvas and the Customer Factory. Also something which I don't believe we looked at very much while we were preparing for the competition, but after that, I kept going back to the IEI has put together a great resource of other opportunities for getting grants, funds, other pitch competitions. So this is something invaluable, in my opinion, to, go and look at and decide whether we want to participate or not. And meeting with other founders and making friends. That was super important. Enoch, you may want to elaborate more on that, but you can.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can add to that. So for us, like, coming to the Beyond Boast Bowl, we had a company. We just launched a company. We had a few customers, but then coming into the BYOBB and getting the mentorship was really key to helping me with things such as like refining the pitch deck, elevator pitch, just stuff that I wasn't really, like, my financials, really looking at it and thinking through that whole process. That was really, really good. But then even later on with the accelerator, it was just great. Like, I really enjoyed it because oftentimes, like, Greg and I talk about this, people go through the Beyond Boast Bowl, like, oh, I won, so I must be really good. So now I could just go out there and everyone's going to give me money. Customers are going to show up and things are magically going to happen. And actually going through the accelerate process was great because you get to meet with people who've gone through it before, and they're going to give you the real talk. And you need that, right? As an early entrepreneur, you need someone who's going to be real. They're not going to sugarcoat stuff. So, oh, you're so great because your company's going to be so big and blah, blah, blah. Like, the reality is, like, there's a lot of work that happens, and having those mentorship opportunities really keeps you grounded, and it helps you to be accountable. I still talk to Greg a lot. And it was great. So we really learned a lot. I had my team members actually join in, and we learned about finance, about law, like things that I wasn't even thinking about, just like, it was like very, very valuable information. And I still tap in to Greg and other mentors that I've met, and people that I met through the IEI, just for, to bounce off ideas, ask questions, and continue to learn. And to touch on Nelly, meeting people and collaborating, Nelly and I actually stayed in touch after the accelerator, and we've been figuring out ways to help each other out. To, like, now we're actually talking about collaborating so we can integrate our products together to help one another as far as, it's an appeal for something out we were building ourselves. Now we don't have to. And at the same time, we can find ways to kind of help our companies grow by collaborating, right? So that's something that, a resource that I would have never gotten had it not been through the IEI.
Definitely. And I love to hear that because you guys are both all about, like, efficiency and for productivity. So that's awesome to hear that you guys like collaborating. And definitely without the IEI having the ESA, Entrepreneurial Student Association, I wouldn't have met my co-founder and probably wouldn't have designed that case. So definitely really thankful for all of that. So one of our next questions is, were there any surprises about your idea, industry, or entrepreneurial journey that you uncovered during the process of applying for the competition or even during? Now,
I can go. Yeah. For me, it was, I had to go out and validate my idea and to do it very quickly. Even though I'd been on the software development side where we would release frequently, utilizing the agile framework, but I had no experience with the marketing and the sales side of it. So the customer discovery interviews, for example, I had no idea what those were. And actually starting to talk about your idea and starting to even advertise and sell it almost before you even develop it, that was a shock to me. Again, I'd been on the other side. We build stuff, we release stuff, and customers buy stuff. How they buy it, no idea, but that was kind of the process I had been accustomed to, and now kind of reverse it completely with starting with finding your customers, talking with them, finding their pain points, and then building what they needed. That was, I would think, the biggest surprise to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I can go for days about surprises because I can find them now. But I'll say, you know, one of the things we did validation early on. We spoke to a bunch of people and then started building our product. We had someone actually committed to pay us, right? And then they followed through. But one of the things I learned just through the process of the BYOBB was that, you know, we were thinking way too broad. I remember sitting with Greg. Greg was like, okay, you gotta bring it in a little bit, right? Like you're here. He's like, that's fine for like to think that way 10 years down the line. He's like, we're talking about like, you know, what can you actually do within the next 2 years? And being able to kind of be like, oh, okay, I need to focus more. That was actually good. And then we carried that on into the accelerator and even refined it even more. And we found that I was talking to Greg at was like before Christmas break, how, you know, Greg set me up with the sales class, and we even had like a moment there that we refined who our customer is even more at that point, so that we can be more laser focused and actually talk to more people. And I think that's something that, had we not gone through accelerator or through this process of your own voice vote, we would have gotten there, but it would have taken us a bit longer to get there. So being able to sit with people that are like, hey, like focus, like this is what you need to focus on. It makes it and sometimes we have egos and you think you know everything. The reality is like this process allows you to realize that you don't know anything, and it's okay. Yeah, you know, you're going to be successful by admitting that. You know what you know, but there's a lot of gaps that you don't know, and you know, and that's a surprise that you're gonna find that, you know, you think your idea is the best thing since Swiss, you know, sliced bread, and then you're gonna go in and afterwards you're gonna, you know, when those gaps are filled, you go, oh, okay, I didn't know this, like I didn't know that, I didn't know this. So that was pretty good. And even like going through the accelerator, some people realize that what they're working on is not good, like, you know, and it was good that they learned that then and not spent all their money building something, and then later on you find out that it's not going to be used by anyone, right? So yeah,
definitely can agree with both sentiments. It's obviously an iterative learning process. I learned about so many different things that I had no knowledge about before, like patents and engineering and manufacturing. And also, like, for me, from a student perspective and not having too much experience, you know, working outside of, you know, internships, it was applying a lot of the stuff I was learning in class directly to my idea, and even some things that I haven't gotten to in my curriculum. Like this semester I'm learning more about finances, which before, during the competition, I had no idea how to make one of these like income statement charts. So definitely learned a lot of the way, and all the time you think one aspect is perfect. Like, for example, we thought this material was perfect and great for our case during manufacturing, and we found out that it's not what we thought it would be. So now we're back to square one, trying to figure out what we're going to use. So definitely always learning. So our next question is that what have you done with your ideas since you have presented at the BYOBB? Maybe what has changed? Maybe any accelerators you were in during the summertime. Talk a little bit about that. Enoch, if you want to start.
Yeah. So we're cranking on. we had set some goals for ourselves this year as far as where our product needed to be, and we met those goals. And now we're working on the next iteration of our product. But one of the things that we actually did, after the summer, we decided to go back and do new validation. So, we focused more on who our customer was, and now we went back and validated, and we started having new customer meetings, right? They're just going to ask people what they thought. But not only that, we went back and started interviewing our users too, to find out, what they like, what they didn't like, and just allow them to be brutally honest with us. And we feel that that's actually helped us, move forward a bit, because we were able to iterate fast by learning from what they wanted, and just giving them what they wanted has made it where when we do demos now with newer potential clients, they're like, oh yeah, this is cool that you have these things, and it just makes it a lot easier for us, because had we not done those interviews and asked those questions, we would be building something that based on what we think is needed, but the reality is your customers are going to tell you what they want. So we're taking that approach of talking to people about it and asking them how they can help, what they want. And on top of that as well, we actually applied for, there's an accelerator out of New York that we were excited about. We applied, we interviewed we had 3 rounds of interview, made it to the final round, and unfortunately we didn't get in. But, at the end of the day, they really liked what we were working on. They gave us some pointers of what we need to improve on. So it was a process in itself. Now we went from, just talking to people from the IEI, now we're actually talking to real investors, right? And these guys are actually investing in companies that are going to, 10x within the next year, 2 years. So it was a good process overall to be able to take all the things we learned from the accelerator to be able to go to those interviews.
Awesome. Glad to hear all that progress. Nelly?
For us, we've developed a pretty good MVP. Started a couple of partnerships, signed up a few beta users, and I was able to hire 2 interns in the fall semester, and they helped us tremendously with SEO, brand awareness, and promotion. They were creating blog posts, like creating a marketing calendar for us, an email nurturing strategy, stuff like that, which again, I had no experience with previously, so that was a huge help. And as a result, we've increased by a lot our website visits, our social media following and engagement, which is great. And that was only through the fall semester. I just kicked off a project with University Canada West, where 70 graduate students will be working with SimplyFlows as part of their strategic management class. I'm super excited about that. And we made that huge pivot to the metaverse a week or so ago. So it's been busy.
Sounds like it. Wow, that's awesome.
And I was going to add, and I guess I talked about that, Nelly and I collaborating. That's another piece of our where we're headed right
yes.
now. Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what all the Temple community is about. So glad to hear that. I guess for the Sun and Star Collective and our product, the Duo Case, right now we're working with an engineering company to help us finalize the design and, as I said, fabricate it. Hopefully we'll have a small batch from there to actually have Duo Cases to show people in person. I'll bring it to the IEI someday. And we're also in the process, as we speak, applying for provisional patents. So hopefully that will be done really soon. And we are kind of planning about what our next big step is in terms of funding and kind of moving forward with manufacturing in a larger scale. So yeah. My next question to you guys would be, what would future participants want to know about competing in the Beer and Boss Bowl that you learned once you were involved in the process?
Enoch, I have a very long list. You go first.
Yeah, mine's quite short. I would say, validate your idea. Whatever you have, it's only in your head, right? Like, and it's like, it can be something that you think is huge, a big problem, but you want to know unless you talk to people, right? So I'll say, go out and speak to people who you're trying to solve their problem, you know, and hear what they have to say, right? Not all of us are Steve Jobs that can see things 30 years out of what people would need, right? We're mostly just regular human beings who are trying to solve problems. So validating your idea will be great. Really go and talk to people and use that, show that, right? Like, as many people you can talk to, and I know it's a lot of work, and often it's easy to just send out surveys, but I think there's something to actually having phone conversation with people or video call, and you know, and then you can do the surveys as well, but like validating your whatever you're working on and really seeing the need out there, and don't just talk to your friends who want crush your spirits and they'll tell you, oh, this is the best idea. Talk to people who you don't even know, that will be brutally honest with you, and then from there you really find you know, if what you're working on is actually worth pursuing, because that's going to dictate how you actually talk about your product or your solution, right, to the Be Your Own Boss goal. And yeah, I think that's really valuable.
I second what Enoch said. It's a lot of work, so be warned, especially if you are a team of one, but it is so much worth it. Something else, being professional and diligent in your work goes a long way. I would strongly recommend attending all the workshops or watching the recordings, reading and going and utilizing all the resources which are available to you, like the tools, or maybe anything basically in that folder, anything available to you. I have found all of them to be helpful, even if it is like a single piece here, a single piece there. So yeah, my advice would be to utilize them all. Also, always ask questions at the workshops. That's what you're there for. Another thing, volunteer to go first or second. You usually get more attention and even more time and more kind of engagement if you do that. That's kind of a particular advice, but yeah, that's what I did. And going back to the amazing mentorship resources available to you, yes, utilize as many of them as possible. What I did, I reached out to several of them, and I believe I ended up meeting with 6 mentors. And then I would tap into the mentor's strength. Obviously, it won't work if you were to, you know, ask all of them the same question. You may get too many different pieces of advice eventually. But if you were to ask, for example, whoever has experience with marketing, you only talk with them about your go-to-market strategy, and then you ask somebody else about whatever else you would like to talk about. That has worked out pretty well for me. So yeah, tap into that wealth of knowledge and experience at your disposal.
Definitely agree with that. My advice was going to be definitely find a few really good mentors, trusted mentors that you can go to, that you know you can ask any question to, and they're not going to judge you, and they can potentially connect you with the right people or the right type of information or whatever resource you might need. So definitely using those IEI resources available is my number one advice. And then number two, coming from the Changemaker Challenge, it was really helpful to have at least a similar formatted like presentation and kind of the questions that are asked on the application. It helped me, I think in the beginning, just have at least something to start from instead of starting from like not even having a business plan or anything. So definitely like if you can enter the competitions before, like the idea competition or the Changemaker, I think it's definitely beneficial. So one of my final questions is, what was your favorite part about Startup Studio? Which was, for those who don't know, that's the the accelerator program that goes along with winning the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. So that happened this summer online, which we all attended, which was great. But I want to hear from Nelly first.
All that experience was awesome, but I remember most vividly the workshop when our pitches were torn into pieces. I'm afraid I cannot recall the mentor's name, but
David
it
Calabrese.
was. Thank you, Greg. But
I knew that's who it was going to be.
It was so awesome, and by awesome, believe me, it wasn't easy to hear like all that critical feedback, but it was awesome because it was real, because it was honest, because it was coming from a good place, and because we were in a trusted environment. Like nobody, as Emily mentioned, nobody would judge you. It was just a very good group of good people around you, so it didn't feel bad, but it was so helpful. I remember, and actually recording those sessions was super helpful, because when you are on the spot, you may not be able to take notes quickly enough, or even think through what you hear. I remember going back and suffering through that. No, I'm kidding. And watching that a few more times, just to be able to take the notes and to actually hear all the feedback. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was steal from Nelly as well. That was one of my favorite ones. I now that you've kind of explained it, I had to live through that again. But it was great. It was actually really good. I mean, like, entrepreneurship, if you're not humble and you're not willing to just get ripped to shreds, like you're not ready for this, right? Like it's gonna happen in a place where it's like you meet with somebody and it's gonna tell you the truth, and that's just reality. So I really did like that. David did that for us, but he did it in a way that it was like so graceful, right? Like he ripped your thing apart, but then he was able to help you build it up to where it made sense. Now you're able to actually talk about your company in a way that people could understand, where before you could fumble through things and thought you were fine. And I think we were patting each other in the back a lot. We're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then David showed up. He's like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you do. And we were like, oh man, okay, like, and I wanted to be your own boss, and I had customers, and I, and he's like, I don't even know what you do. And I was like, oh man, okay, this is real. So being able to actually hear that feedback and just being able to take it back and iterate what you're working on was key. Another one that was one of my favorites too, sessions was the law one. As long like law is usually boring to most of us, but we had this guy who came in. He was actually a fund lawyer / accounting guy, and he talked about things to look out for. He was scary as hell, because he was like, if you don't do this, you're gonna owe money. He's like, you don't do this, But at the end of the day, going back to listen to it and actually taking the notes and reviewing the notes, it wasn't as scary. It was just very informative. But that's information that even when you Google, you're not really gonna find. And the guy, just gave us a lot of really valuable information that we you pay thousands of dollars to get from a lawyer. So I really appreciated that.
And Emily, about you?
For me, I think it was honestly the kind of community and culture that was created. Definitely, especially with speaking upon the feedback. I felt like after everyone did their elevator pitch or talked about maybe the problem they were dealing with, you could always offer up a suggestion of a solution or something to check out, or anything was always really welcome. Feedback was always welcomed from the other participants. So I really liked the collaborative and creative culture of bouncing ideas off of each other. And I think that connection of the Be Your Own Boss Bowl and just being connected to Temple, you can it's a positive energy in the session. So I really enjoyed that, and of course all of the speakers as well. So with that answer, I'm going to pass it off to Greg, because I'm sure he has questions.
Yeah, Emily, thank you. Wonderful job. So yeah, I do have a couple things I'd like to maybe ask you to expand on and bring out. So, you can enter the competition. as solo, or you can enter it in teams of up to 4 people. And I think on this call here tonight, we have examples of both. So I'd really like to hear from maybe Nellie, you first, to hear about what some of the challenges are about going for this, as a solopreneur, as they call it, right? And how did you approach it mentally? Did you try to build a team? Are you trying to build a team now? If you just expand on that a little bit. I do want to, before I turn it over to you though, I do want to point out that you did do this solo and you were a finalist. And so you were able to overcome the hurdles. And those of you on the call listening, I hope you're inspired by this woman, because she worked her tail off and did a great job. So tell us a little bit about that though.
Thank you so much, Greg. Yes, it was a lot of work, that's for sure. How to manage? Obviously, time management is critical. Obviously, you have to have the tools, whatever you use usually, to make sure that you are on track with your work, that you meet all the deadlines. And again, and this is actually feedback which I've heard from mentors when reviewing your work. It shows that you've put in the effort, that you've put in the diligence and the hard work. So it is definitely worth it to be diligent and to put in that work. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but at the same time, who says entrepreneurship is easy, right? If I'm not able to do that, then, am I even doing it for real? So it was a good kind of testament to whether I could manage. As for building a team, yes, I've been trying to get some people around me in different capacities, no full-time employees yet, but like interning for me or helping me part-time, or being on my advisory board, for example. So yeah, trying to surround myself with people, but not necessarily employees yet.
Okay, great. How about you, Emily? So you entered the competition and you had a team. Okay, how did you approach that? Did you divide responsibilities? Do they divide and conquer? Did you work together more so than separate? How did you approach it?
Honestly, it was a little bit of both when preparing for these competitions. At that point, I was a junior and she was a senior, and she was actually in the entrepreneurial classes that allow you to work on your business. So I think the class she was in was strategic planning with Dwight Carey. So she was directly able to work on a business plan right around the same time as the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. So it was kind of honestly perfect timing. So she was able to actually take care of a lot of the financial end of it because she was learning about that in class. But for the rest of the application, we honestly we both worked on it on our own time, but we would meet and we would be talking every day on and off all day through voice memos on our phone. But aside from that, we would definitely FaceTime and talk for hours and hours every single week, because we really want this to be our collaborative effort. And we never really divided up specific roles. We kind of just assigned what each one of us felt confident about or more passionate about. So she talked more about the design, since she created that. And then for me, I talked more about the marketing and maybe the social impact. So definitely give and take. And it's been a great experience having a co-founder, because I always have someone to bounce ideas off and work with, which I really enjoy that. Okay.
Over to you, Enoch. How did you build your first team?
Yeah, so my first team, it was interesting because when I first started working on this, I was a solopreneur as well, and found that I was making progress, but it was slow. And a friend of mine, I reached out, we were talking. He's like, just make people do things for you. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? So I was actually able to just talk to people I knew. I spoke to my brother and his college roommate's a friend of ours. He's a developer, software developer. So he came and joined me as my first co-founder. One of my current co-founders, one of my friends close friend's dad. He's also a software developer, so he joined around the same time. I just kind of told them what I wanted to do and asked them if they were interested in joining me on this journey, and they seemed to be, they knew nothing about construction, but they liked the fact that they were going to be doing something meaningful. So they joined up. You know, by the time we applied to the Be Your Own Boss goal, I think there were about 3 of us co-founder, and then we had other people, advisors and whatnot in our team. So as far as doing the work, you know, we made a deliberate decision that I was going to step away from programming around that time so I can focus on the application for this. And then, you know, we had some team members help with market, like putting together the actual marketing and reviewing the stuff that I write, because I'm not the best writer. So I have to make sure that it actually makes sense and is coherent. So having a team for me made it a bit easier, just because I was able to not have everything, you know, that I didn't have to do everything on my own. So that was really helpful. And that's why, you know, Nellie's like a super person, right? Like, not only is she she was doing by herself, she has a family and she was doing, you know, doing all this while being a mom. So it's pretty awesome. But I found it, for, you know, having a team did make things a bit easier for us. And it was something that, you know, it was exciting because everyone in the team was rooting for this. So we have our regular team meeting, and not only were we rooting for when we do demos, but also really about, you know, this process, right? So it was pretty good.
Okay. Emily, what would you say was the most difficult part about you submitting to the competition last year?
For me, it was definitely time, because the application does take a lot of time to fill out and a lot of research behind all of that. So for me, as being a student while doing this competition, and it being one of my hardest years junior year, definitely was not easy to always find the time. But honestly, with the blessing of, not the blessing, but the pandemic, I guess, allowed me to be able to spend more time on it because I wasn't going as many places. I was online school. So, and honestly, it was a perfect opportunity to take advantage of being at home. But definitely I've spent well over maybe like 60, 70 hours preparing for it. So definitely the lack of time was definitely hard doing in school and applying. But luckily, Caroline, as I said, was in those classes that allowed her to work a little bit more on it academically while being in school.
All right, and Nellie, how about you? What do you think was the most significant challenge or the most challenging part of submitting into the competition?
Yeah, as we already heard, I'm a superhuman. No, I'm not. Yes, it was a lot of work again, but for me personally, the 9-minute video pitch recording was the most challenging. Believe it or not, I recorded probably 50 times before I submitted, and I never liked any of those. And I was even thinking how doing the presentation in person, it's still like you freak out before the presentation, but then it starts and it's over. While submitting a video recording gives you the opportunity to make it perfect, right? Well, several days later and several dozens of recordings later, I realized there wasn't anything like a perfect recording, so I just went with one. But yeah, that video recording took probably the most time.
Okay, and before I move on to Enoch, I want to just clarify, the video recording is not required as part of the regular submission. Once you're a finalist, then that's when you have to create the video recording to submit, right? And so for those people, you know, who are on the call thinking about submitting, you have to submit a pitch deck, but you don't have to submit the video recording for that unless you've been selected as a finalist. And even then, we'll bring you in and give you some pitch coaching to help you refine your pitches before you embark on that process of doing the 50 takes that Nellie talked about. All right.
Thank you for clarifying that, Greg. Yes, I was thinking about the whole experience, but
no,
yeah,
no, that's
right.
okay. That's okay. I was just happy to see that 28 people didn't sign off the call when you mentioned the 9-minute recording. All right. Enoch, how about you? What do you think was the most significant?
I think it's the balancing act, like Emily talked about a little bit. You know, most of you are probably in school or working full-time jobs, right? So for me, I was working a full-time job. trying to launch a company because we had just launched our product. So I would do that. That already took my time after my regular job, right? Construction people work all kinds of crazy hours. So I was doing that, and then launching a company, and then submitting to BYOBB also took a lot of time. So and I had a 1-year-old at the time, like, you know, so it was just a lot of things happening. So balancing all those things, I think I had my kid with me when I was writing things, and I would have him on calls. I even had him at the BYOBB competition. So it was just a lot of like figuring out a way to make everything work in the midst of chaos, and finding that it does work, but it was challenging, you know, to try to jump on calls for the, especially since I'm in the West Coast, so I was always 3 hours. I'm always 3 hours behind. So sometimes the workshops would take place while I'm at my regular job. So I have to kind of find ways to like move meetings around to make that work, right? So those are pretty challenging parts.
Okay. All right, so I don't want to take up any more time. I'd like to throw it open to the people joining us here on the call on the Zoom and see what questions you may have, things that we didn't cover, Emily didn't ask, or I didn't ask, but things that you'd like to direct to the panel. Now's the perfect opportunity to ask those tough questions that pertain specifically to your situation, your idea, what you see as the road ahead of you getting ready to submit to the competition. So if you have any questions, feel free to speak up or raise your hand or just put them into the chat and we'll take it from there. Would anybody like to start off? I hope everybody heard me.
You can ask anything.
Any questions? If you want to know how Enoch's son's doing.
Yeah, I finally get to be free because he's in daycare, so I can work without interruption. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, he joined us on a number of the calls that we had over the summer.
Yes, he did.
Any questions? So what was the toughest part of the competition from Shalina? I think we kind of covered that, but does anybody have any other? How about if we take that and maybe turn it into, are there any tips, any other tips that you'd like to share? I heard time management from several of you, but any other tips that you'd want to share?
Yeah, I'll say if you have an idea and you're going to submit, start, try to build some sort of, I don't know, like a quick MVP or something that you can show. It helps you visualize what you're solving, but you can also help others visualize what you're solving. I'll say it's easy to do. It's not that difficult, right? Like if you're doing a product, you can just design, like, you can take pictures and put it together or something. I don't know, like if you're doing a software thing, you can just do a mock-up through Adobe XD or something, right? Like something just that shows like the visualization of what you're doing, makes it more real and that it's actually there, right? Even for yourself and for others.
I remember that watching previous finals was super helpful, like watching what other people were presenting and how they were presenting was super helpful. And there was also one video tutorial about the pitch deck and the presentation, which I recall I watched very early, and that was also super helpful. It literally broke down all the pieces you needed to cover, and that was super helpful as well.
Yeah, in our first workshop, which is next Wednesday night at 5 o'clock, we'll be doing an overview of the competition again, because I know we'll have some other new people that will be joining us next week. But then the very first topic we're going to start with is actually how to structure and develop an investor style pitch deck. And the reason we start there is because the pitch deck is, one of the three main elements that you're going to be submitting, but that really can be used as a framework, and it covers all of the main topics that you really need to think about and address. And then you'll go much deeper in those areas with your research, and then bring it all back out and summarize all of that when you do your executive summary, when you do your pitch deck, and then of course putting together your financials. But that is a good starting point. I found in the past that if we start by first going over what needs to be in that pitch deck, it really does lay almost a work plan for you to follow, and helps you, get ready and get your submission together. Any other questions from the audience? Really, I strongly encourage you, ask your questions now.
Yeah, I was going to add something too, Greg.
Yes.
Submit no matter what. Just, I'll throw it out there. Like, no matter what you have, because I think sometimes you might feel like, oh, I don't have a good enough submission, I'm not going to win. Doesn't matter. Just submit anyways. And you never know where it's going to get. You might not win, but the feedback that you're going to get is so valuable, right? It's going to help you. It's better to submit something than to submit nothing, I think. Because you're gonna get a lot of feedback, and who knows, like you might find yourself at the accelerator during the summer, because there are people at the accelerator that weren't finalists, and they still got to get just as much value as everyone else and work through their thing just like everyone else, right? So I would say, if you can, don't let what you think is not just submit, and then figure it out after that.
Just to echo Enoch's point there, I've been mentoring. I was a mentor for the Be Your Own Boss Bowl since 2009, before I came to work here at Temple just 3 years ago. But I volunteered as a mentor, and mentored at least one or two teams almost every year. And it was heartbreaking to work with a student or a team for 8 or 9 weeks, meeting every week, helping them through, bouncing ideas, giving them feedback, suggestions, introducing them to other professionals in my network for them to get additional help, only to find out that on the night of the submission, they decided they weren't going to submit. It was heartbreaking. And so I definitely want to echo Enoch's comment, is that, no matter what you think of it, submit. Because one of the things you will get is, not only do the judges score your idea, and you won't see those scores, but they will also give you feedback. And, it's anonymous feedback. We encourage them to make sure it's constructive. We're not here to crush your dreams, but, we are here to tell the truth. And so sometimes you might not like what you hear or what you see in terms of the feedback, and you may not even agree with it, but it's good that you get it. And truly, teams that have gone through this a couple times always come back and say one of the most valuable things that they got from it was the feedback from those judges in that first round. And that's what helped push them in that second go around to really be able to make it to the finals. So I want to echo that. All right, we have a question. How many average team submissions are there in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl per year? Well, on average, for many years, we were up about 100 entries. But if you think about it, that's 100 entries out of all of the students, alumni, faculty, and staff. You're talking probably 100,000 or more people that would be eligible to submit. So 100 a year is not bad. And I will tell you that since the COVID epidemic hit, and since a lot of things have moved online, our number of entries has actually fallen. It's been harder to get people engaged. It's been harder to get people to work through this and submit. Last year, I believe we had 55 teams enter. So you could be one out of the 55 that makes it to the finals. So we're picking 8 finalists. So your odds are pretty good, is what I'm trying to say. Any other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank our panelists. Emily, thank you in particular for being the moderator and leading the discussion, and as well for being a finalist from last year. Nellie and Enoch, thank you as well. You really shared some great insights and tips, and I think the most important thing is that you made it real. You know, this is not an easy competition. As I said, it's the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. There's the most to learn out of it, and there's the most to get out of it in terms of financial funding for your business, as well as these other service packages that come from our sponsors. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again, and I want to just finish up with a couple last thoughts before we sign off, and I'll try to wrap this up by 6:30. So, you know, here are some additional tips that I'd like to share with you for winning the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. Number one is understand the requirements, and the way you do that is by registering so that you have access to the shared resources folder. And you've heard several of the panelists tonight talking about how you really need to take advantage of that. Go through the rubric of how the judges are going to score so that you know what they're going to be expecting. Take advantage of all of the templates, the videos, everything that's in there. The other thing is, you mentioned the panelists all comment about time. Right now, we have 9 weeks until the submission date, which is March 23rd. So I suggest that you take a look at that and don't think of it as being overwhelming. It's a lot of work to do in those 9 weeks, but you know, to answer the question of how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And so I'd suggest you build a timeline for yourself. Once you go to this workshop next week and you've seen what's required, you know, all of the elements required in the pitch deck, you'll be able to take that, break it out. It almost really would come down to 1 element per week, and then set a schedule for yourself. The other thing I would encourage you to do is start booking meetings with mentors now. When you're on Startup Tree to book your meetings with these mentors, you always need to book for a week in advance. So on Monday, you can't say, oh, I want to meet with a mentor on Thursday. So plan now to start thinking about and booking meetings with mentors. Also, as you mentioned, or as you've heard, you can enter as a solopreneur, and guess what? We've had plenty of winners who were solopreneurs, who entered the competition by themselves and went on to be successful, not just in the competition, but successful with their ventures, with their businesses. So you can do that, but now's the time to start looking to build a team, either founding partners to come on board, mentors, or other people that you can look to and turn to as advisors that could be on your advisory board. All right, plan to attend the workshops over the next 6 weeks. And again, I keep saying over and over, you see this word mentoring coming up. It is so important. And seriously, even if you're stuck and you don't know who to ask to be a mentor, remember, you can meet with many mentors. You don't have to meet with just one, but you can also come to us, contact me directly, or when you register, just check off, let us know that you're looking for some help to find a mentor, and then we'll connect you with some suggested people for you to go talk to. And don't forget to hit submit. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. If you'd please be so kind, you can use this QR code to do a quick 4-question survey. If you'd be kind enough to please do that for us. This is a way for us to be able to get feedback on the quality of the submission, or I'm sorry, the quality of the programs we're running. Another question's coming in, does each person from the group register? No, you only need, if you're going to have a team, only one person on the team needs to register. When you register, we'll ask you for other members on your team. And when you submit, we'll ask you one person to submit to the competition, and we'll ask that one person to list the other members on the team, their contact information, and the roles they're playing on the team. All right, now, I also, for some of you on the call this evening, you may be looking for the QR codes for undergraduate students and graduate students for the, join and to get in. So please take advantage of that. Come in, use the space. Lots of people use this for networking and to find partners to join their teams. Also, we've talked about Startup Tree. Startup Tree is a lot like LinkedIn, but for entrepreneurs. And it's a way to connect with other people in the Temple community who use it. They use it to find mentors, book mentor appointments, look for workshops, and also look for other members to join their teams. So please use that tool, as well as LeanStack, which is an online learning platform that talks all about the lean startup methodology. Again, here's a QR code for you to join. Both of these software platforms are free. Temple pays all the licenses, and they're free for you to use as a student or as an alum. Also, you may be interested in joining our Entrepreneurial Student Association. If you are, they meet every Wednesday, 12 to 1. A great group of people dedicated to learning about entrepreneurship. Lots of wonderful speakers that they bring in and really cool activities that they do. So if you're interested in becoming a member of ESA, please feel free to join. Scan that code. All right, that's it. I want to thank you again for joining us. I'll go back to the QR codes for the suitable points.